looks like it's still on. That's good. Okay, so we did this last year, and for some reason, like when I did that placement test, pretty much almost everybody forgot how to do this, right? And forgot this formula and whatever. The formula basically is, first of all, I'm going to talk about the slope formula. Okay? And first of all, let's use common sense for a second. Let's just try to draw a graph, right? And I say, let's see here, 1. All right, let's say we have point 1, 6 and 2, let's see, 4, 2. So this is 4, 2, and this is 1, 6. Okay? Did I do that right? I think so. And I've got, let's say I have a line. Okay? So I've got a straight line that goes on forever and ever. And I'm asking you to find the slope between these 2 points. All right? Now, sorry, this is a little confusing. All right, put that down for a second. All right, so why is it so noisy? Is that door open? No. Okay. So I think what I'm going to do is I am going to bring a line, a dotted line down here for a second, all the way down, okay? And I'm going to bring a dotted line here all the way across, okay? So would you agree with me? I want slope is, we figured out, we know this. Slope is m, right, for mountain slope. And we know that it is rise over run. Am I right? Yeah. That's really clear to everybody. So, starting from a left point, going to a right point. It's important that you go from left to right, right? Am I going up or down?
Down.
Down. So, my rise is negative. You guys agree with me? Mm-hmm. Right? And I go down 1, 2, 3, 4. Does everybody agree with me? So that's 4, right? So my rise is negative 4, excuse me. Negative 4. And then my run is what? 1, 2, 3. You guys agree with me there? Now, how could I have found that algebraically? How do I, if I have this whole line from here down to here, how could I find just this? Besides counting. What if I said this whole thing, which is 6? Do you guys agree with me? Agree with me? This is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That's 6 all the way down to the x-axis. So 6 minus what would give me this? Minus this 2, right? So this whole thing minus just this gives me this. You guys see that?
Do you have to
make sense? This whole thing minus this gives me my rise. Does that make sense? So minus the 2, right? We said? All right, that's my rise, right? Rise over run. What's my run? From here all the way to here is what? It's 4. From here all the way to there is 4. Minus this, right? Minus the 1. So 4 minus 1. And then, so that'll give me a slope of 6 minus 2 is 4. 4 minus 1 is 3. Oh, that's what we said. Oh, excuse me. What did I just do? I did hang on a second. What am I screwing up on? Because it's negative, let's see here. The slope is going down. So I guess I have to do that. Wait, that doesn't work either. How do I do that? And then I guess I just say, I guess I've got that, but I notice that it's going down, so I'll just say it's negative, right? because it's a fall, right? It's falling, so I'm going to just say it's negative. That's interesting. I don't usually do this, so it's like this way. But I'm trying to show you that basically the rise, right? So that's really, the rise is the whole of the y minus the whole of the other y. See that? It was 6 minus the 2. 6 minus the 2 over 1 minus the 4. But in this case, we have to, oh, I know what I did wrong. I see what I did wrong. Never mind. I see what I did wrong. Sorry. I got it. See, I just made the classic mistake. Look what I did. I started with the 6, and then I started with the 4. You see that mistake? See that? I can't do that. I've got to start with this. I've got to start with the same thing. I started with the 6, which is the right one, the y. I've got to start with the right one, the y here. Or I've got to start with the 1 for the x. Since I started with the x, I started, geez, this is the worst. Let me start over. This is x, and this is y, right? This is x, and this is y. Since I started with this y, I have to start with this x. I have to start with, if I start with this y, I have to start with this x. So I have to do 1 here, and then I'm going to subtract 4, because I'm looking for the difference between these two. So look at that. Then I'm going to have 4 over negative 3, which is negative 4/3. Okay, you don't have to know this. What you have to know is the rise is the change in y. The run is the change in x. Okay? Change means subtract. Right? Change means subtract. The formula that some people always remember is y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. Okay? So that is technically our slope formula. Okay? When I do it, I just use this. I say m is equal to the change in y over the change in x. Some people prefer to remember this, y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. That's fine, whatever you want. So, with this problem, now I'm going to just do it this way. Well, actually, this is it. If I take, here's my 2 points, 1, 6. I'm going to start with this one. I'm going to put a box around the one I start with, so I always start with that. I start with the y, and I start with the x, right? With me? So I'm going to, the change in y, I'm going to do my, I'll do this again, y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1, right? I'm going to say this is x 2 and y2, and this is x1 and y1.
But would that always be like, would build up the top, and would that always be x2?
It doesn't have to. It can be, it makes absolutely no difference which ones you make x1 and y1 and x2 and y2. It makes no difference. What matters is that if this is an x1, this is a y1. It can't be a y2 and an x1, right? So then so now all I have to do is say, well, m is equal to my y2. My y2 is 6. And then I always do minus because I'm subtracting. That's the formula. The formula has a minus sign. Minus, and then I've got 1. Oh, what am I doing? Sorry. y2. 2, right? y2 minus y1. Sorry, 6 minus 2 over, I got to go back to the x2, 1 minus 4. Right? This y minus this y over this x minus this x. I really did not teach this well. Sorry, I apologize. I kept saying everything wrong. But just the way it is, I guess. Sometimes that happens. So let me get rid of this mess. And then we're going to start to see how easy this is. Okay, so I want to find the slope. So here's an example. I want to find the slope of the line that passes through these 2 points. So I'm going to say 8, 7, and 9, 3. Okay? So it doesn't matter which one I start with. I tend to look at the y's, And I just tend to always start with the one with the bigger y. Okay? Just what I do. Because then I have a slight chance of having a positive answer. Right? It doesn't matter though. You'll see why. But if I'm going to start with that one, I put a box around it. Because it reminds me I've got to always start with these numbers, right? And I'm going to write this. M is equal to the change in y over the change in x. Which means, all it means is I have to subtract one y from the other. And on the bottom I have to subtract one x from the other. I already decided I'm going to start with the one in the box. You with me? So here's my y. So equals 7. And the formula says minus. So it's 7 minus. That's what change means, is subtract. 7 minus 3 over, I got to start with this x because I started with this y. So 8 minus 9. So my answer is 7 minus 3 is 4. 8 minus 9 is negative 1, so it is negative 4 is my answer. That's my slope. Right? Remember this now? Okay? So, right? Does it make sense? This is going to be homework tonight. 2. We'll just do a bunch of examples, so we got it. So,
Just finding the number?
3, 4, and 5, 6. Okay? I personally look for the y that's the biggest. In this case, this is the biggest, so I'm going to start with this one. I put a box around it. Always tells me. I write m is equal to, and I put the change in y. That triangle means change. It's called delta. It's a Greek symbol. But it means, in math, it means change. The change in y over the change in x. Okay? So I start with the one in the box. That's 6 minus, and then it's a 4. 5, I start with the one in the box, minus 3. So my answer is 6 minus 4 is 2. 5 minus 3 is 2. My slope is 1. Right? Pretty easy, right? It's not hard. Okay? Now it gets harder when you start adding negatives into these points. Right? You guys, fist of 5. You understanding this so far?
Yeah, like I do.
You understand the formula now. Just focus on the formula. You understand how to use the formula. Okay. Henry, was that a 5 or a 1?
What?
You didn't answer me. Fist of 5?
Yeah. 5.
Okay. Alright, so let's try another one. Let's make them slightly harder. So 3, let's say we had negative 2 comma 8 and negative 5 comma negative 3. Okay? Okay? So again, I write, okay, which one is my bigger y? 8 or negative 3?
8.
So I'm going to put a box around that. M is equal to the change in y over the change in x. Do you know what most people do? Like I'll have 50% of the class do this. They will put x on top. They will write this formula with the y on top. They will write this part right. And then they will proceed to put the x's on top. They'll say, oh, negative 2 minus negative 5, right? Wrong, right? You see that? You've got to start with the y's. Don't forget which one is which. This is the y. So it's going to be 8 minus a minus 3. So what does that really mean? 8 plus 3, right? Over negative 2 minus a negative 5. So really, that means negative 2 plus 5. So that gives me 8, 9, 10, 11 over 5 minus 2, which is 3. So that would be my slope. Right? Make sense? So it's rise 11 and run 3. Right? So let's try another one. 4. Where are we? Ah, no wait.
What time is it?
Right there.
I have 9 minutes. Wow, that's fast. I don't remember, how'd that go so fast? All right, so now we'll do a harder one. Let's try negative, -7 comma -1 and -3 comma -4. Okay, they're all negative. So the key is to just be really careful when you see negatives like this. You know, you gotta wake up, right? So again, I write my m is equal to the change in y, which means y's are on top, over the change in x. Okay? Which one is my bigger y? Yeah, -4 is way over to the left. -1 is pretty close to 0, so I'll start with that one. Doesn't really matter. It really doesn't matter. You can start with either, right? It's just a habit I have, and I find it's a little easier, because then you don't have to deal, often you don't have to deal with as many negatives. So I'm going to say, start with my y, -1 minus, and then here's my other y, -4. Okay, so that means -1 plus 4 over, taking notes, Henry? And then over x, you've got -7 minus, and then -3, which means plus, okay? So I've got 4 minus 1 is 3, and I have -7 plus 3 is -4. So my slope is -3/4. Fist to 5, are you getting it more? Is it making sense? Okay. All right. So great. Can I move on now? Let's say, let's see, what do we have? I feel like I need another eraser. That eraser is really dirty. Okay. So that's that. Now, so we basically talked about the slope formula. So what is the slope formula? Everybody together. M equals the change, yeah, right, rise over run, but also the change in y over the change in x, right? Everybody has that down? Does everybody have that memorized already? For sure, because you have to have that memorized. You have to know that. Okay, so now we're going to talk about the second one, writing equation of a line passing through 2 points. All right, so so here's our problem. Write an equation of a line passing through, passing through 5, 2 and 6, 1. Okay? So I need, what do I need first? I have to know an equation of a line, I have to have its what?
It's axis.
Its
No,
slope,
it's slope.
right?
Airplane.
I have to know its slope. So I have to first, I know I've got to find the slope. So let's try it. So we'll go m is equal to the change in y over the change in x. Change again means subtract. I'm going to choose my y that's the biggest one. I'm going to put a box around that. So I know I always start with this y and always start with this x. So I have 2 minus, and then the other y is 1 over 5 minus, and then the other x is 6. Okay, so I have 2 minus 1 is 1. 5 minus 6 is -1. So that's going to give me a slope of -1. Okay? All right. So we've started this. Now, there are 2 ways to do this. And the way I taught it before, the next part, I'm not done yet. All we did is we found a slope of the line, right? We also have to write an equation of that line. All right? And in last year, I taught the point slope formula. And this year, I think I'm going to teach it slightly differently. I'm not going to use the point slope formula quite so much. It's an awesome formula, but high school teachers, for some reason, don't like it so much. I've heard that they refuse to let some students use the formula. So, anyways, that's my opinion. Don't ask me. So I'm going to show you the other way, okay? And it's using the slope-intercept formula, which is, what's the formula?
Y equals mx plus b.
Does everybody know that for sure? Y equals mx plus b? So we're going to use that formula. Here we go. Y equals mx plus b. Okay. Now notice we figured out our slope, right? So now we know that y, we can replace the m with negative 1. Y is equal to negative 1x plus b. What else do we know? What else was given in the problem?
One. We can add with an x,
Where?
right?
What?
Just kidding.
So look, this was the original problem. What else? What did they give me in the problem?
Well, they gave you 2 y's and 2 x's.
Ah, where are the 2 y's and the 2 x's? Right here. There's a y and there's an x, right? There's a y and there's an x. So choose either one. So Weston, help me. Choose one. Which one do you want to use?
6, 1.
Okay, so we're going to use 6, 1. Would you guys agree with me that 6 is x, right? And y is 1? You guys would agree with me? Yes? So let's replace, whenever we see an x, let's replace it with a 6. Whenever we see a y, let's replace it with a 1. So here's a y, so I'm going to put a 1 equals negative 1 times 6 plus b. What's the only unknown that I have there? The b. I have one equation and one unknown. Can I solve for b? One equation, one unknown? Yes. You can always, if there's one equation and one unknown, you can always solve for that unknown, right? So, let's simplify a little further. 1 equals negative 6 plus b. What would I do to solve for b? Weston, help me.
Okay.
I want,
Add 6 to each side.
right, I want to say b equals, right? This is in the way, so I'm going to add 6. Looks like times. I'm going to add 6, so we have 7 equals b. Am I right? Okay, that's what we needed to find. We have our slope, we just needed our y-intercept. And now we're going to get rid of the 6 and the 1, and we're just going to go back to y and x to create our equation. Remember, an equation has y equals mx plus b, right? We now know what our b is, and we know what our m is. You with me? We know our b, and we know our m. So, y is equal to, our m is negative 1, x, and our b is positive 7. So I put plus 7. And that's my formula. That's my equation. Make sense? Right? All right, let's try to do one more. Let's see if we have time. I don't know if we, can I erase this? Are you taking notes? Because you're going to need this, buddy. You need to write everything on the board.
It's 9:09, Gary.
Yep.
I don't know.
All right, so let's try one more.
Wait, are you supposed to graph it? When you get
No, you don't have to graph it. You don't have to graph it. All right, so now we're going to try, we're going to just change these points. And let's try 4, 2, and 8, 1. All right? So that is still my bigger y, so I keep it thing. So I'm going to try my slope first. M is equal to 2 minus 1. 2, well, excuse me. Change in y over the change in x is equal to 2 minus 1. I expect this every time. Change in y over change in x, okay? I want to see that because I want you to know it really well. 2 minus 1 over 4 minus 8. So my slope is, 2 minus 1 is 1. 4 minus 8 is negative 4, so it's negative 1/4. That's my slope. Now I'm going to plug that in. So I've got y equals mx plus b. And I know that my m is negative 4. So really it's y equals negative 1/4 x plus b. Okay? Now, I'm going to take either one of these. We'll just take the first one that's in the box. So 2 is equal to negative 1/4 times 4. Am I right? Plus b. You with me? I found my slope. Everybody knows how to do that. And then I write my slope-intercept formula. Y equals mx plus b. Right? Y equals negative 1/4 x, because that's what my m is, plus b. And now I'm going to replace the y and the x with this point. That's my x, that's my y, right? This is the point I'm using. So if x is 4 and y is 2, I put 2 for y equals negative 1/4, 4 for x, plus b. Well, negative 1/4 times 4, look at that, the 4's cross out, because that's 4 over 1, they cross reduce, right? So it's just negative 1. So 2 is equal to negative 1 plus b, right? I'm going to add 1 to both sides, add 1. So I've got 3 is equal to b. So I found my y-intercept, right? My b is my y-intercept. So now I go back and rewrite my equation. Y equals, what's my slope?
1/4.
Negative 1/4 x, and then what's my b? Plus 3. And I'm
then
done.
you can graph them.
And that is, you don't have to graph it. I'm not asking you to graph it. You can graph it, but all I'm asking you to do is write the equation, right? All right, fist to 5, do you understand it? Okay. So that's the process. Now, I'll just, for those of you who know point slope formula, the bell didn't ring, did it? Okay, for those who know point slope, remember point slope formula? Y minus y1 is equal to m times x minus x1. So much easier to do this one. You keep the y and you just change the y1. This is your y1 and this is your x1. So y minus 2 is equal to negative 1/4 x minus 4. And we're done,
Can we just do the
right? But you have to do this one. You have to do the one I've just taught, because everybody in high school is being forced to learn
Oh,
that
do you
one
want these there?
instead of the other methods. So, is there homework that I didn't collect? Oh, the homework. You guys wait. The homework.
No, it's okay. No, you said there wasn't. I said that there wasn't any homework and that there wouldn't be for the rest of the year.
Yeah, Gary, you have to keep a promise. Oh, I got this.
Well, promises are meant to be broken. That's not
That's a lie. That's like, I don't,
so my child is meant to be broken.
yeah, yes. Childhood is a promise.
That's sad.
Because of you.
Put it inside your binder so it doesn't go off. Yes, we can do that.
Yeah.
Like, pull it out. not gonna ask why I have feather in your hair. It is a bad four.
But is it a match? Mind blown. It's that serious.
This sucks because I'm bright-eyed dominant, but I'm seeing vaguely at my left eye.
Okay.
Everything's going to
Yeah,
be
we got
blurry.
9:17. We're
Everything's
getting a
going
late
to be
start.
blurry.
Okay. So, first of all, welcome to John and Skylar. It's great to have you in math class.
He's not sitting because
And, let me just talk a little bit about what I do and why, okay? I teach an Algebra 1 course, usually for 2 years, for 7th grade and 8th grade, right? The first year I get through most of Algebra 1. The second year I get through deeper levels of Algebra 1 and tons of quadratics, which are parabolas, right? We do tons of parabolas the second year. We'll do some of them this year, but you'll get way better at them next year, way better. And the reason I do that is actually kind of common. It's in several private schools around the country. They teach Algebra 1 as a 2-year program, and it's not common in public schools, but it's common in private schools. Now, the reason I do that is that I personally believe, and I know other math teachers also believe this is the most important class you'll ever take in math. Absolutely, hands down, without a question. Every year, between now and through college, every year, you will start your math class, whether you are taking, well, geometry is the one exception, but if you take when you take Algebra 2, you're going to start the first month, or probably 2 months, is going to be review of Algebra 1. It should be. There are some schools now that are choosing not to do any review, which is totally crazy. But that's okay. It's their choice. If they want. Oh, did I forget to stop this?